Hi, this is Sarah, the Stitchin Mommy, and it's Monday, June 29th. June is almost over, and July is about to be here, which I'm going to be doing Jolly July and Full Coverage Fanatics July Bingo. So last night I was thinking, oh no, I have to get ready. So thankfully I got what I needed to do done with a little bit of time left in the evening to kind of start playing and prepping and picking what I was going to work on this week for the bingo, because I'm not just going in order. I'm picking things that hopefully will line up with my schedule. So let's get to it. I had a couple things that I acquired this week. One is I downloaded Pandemic by Long Dog Samplers. I believe the window of 1 week when this was free is over. I almost forgot about it. Dawn, Frosty X Stitch, she told me about this like a day into the week they were offering it free. I'm like, oh yeah, I'll go do that. Did I do it right away? No, just totally forgot. And then it was, I think a day or two before it was going to go away. I'm like, oh yeah, I forget what reminded me. Probably something on YouTube or Instagram. Oh, gotta go do that. So anyways, it's probably, I don't know if it's for sale now or if they're going to release it later at some point, but I have no intentions of stitching this entire thing, but it was free. And I do like parts of it. So like this right here is kind of pretty, or even this little thing for a small, you could do little vignettes for cards or smalls exchanges or something, I don't see myself doing this entire thing. There's a lot of heavy stitching in some of these areas, but it's kind of fun. And I don't have a Long Dog Sampler yet. I hadn't until now, so now I do. So that'll be fun to have in my possession. The other thing is an actual purchase. I saw this on Stitching with the Housewives channel. One of their new releases called Hello Summer. This is the first one of their chalkboard designs that actually appealed to me. Like all the other ones are cute, but I'm like, I wouldn't stitch that. It's cute and I'll watch other people stitch it, but I was never tempted. And then this one, I'm like, oh, I love that. It's got strawberries and watermelon and flowers. Yeah, so I noticed when I was finding fabric for one of my starts this week that I have some black Aida. This just, might need to happen. So anyways, I don't know. I didn't necessarily like the one they had for spring, and I don't think they've released fall and winter yet. So I don't know if I'll do all four. I was thinking I could put all four on a bag together, like quilt style, and make a bag out of them together, or make a separate bag for each season and then put like my seasonal crosses in there. I did see, who was it that I was watching? I think it was Stitchin It, and she was showing her dimensions kits. I think this was her. If it's not her, I'm sorry. But she got some, zippered bags on Amazon and put her kits in there, because once you open a kit, I keep my stuff in the plastic that it came in, but like I noticed with my recent kit, it starts to rip sometimes. And so it could be nice to actually have project bags for the kits that I have, even though I don't use project bags for most other things since I stitch from stash. But if it starts out as a kit, it's already got like thread cards and all of that. That could be a nice thing to do for some of my projects. So I will hopefully at some point get around to making project bags out of some of these smaller finishes that I've been doing. And so that's kind of what I thought I'd make these out of, is make them up and make project bags, seasonal project bags for like my summer seasonal crosses. Eventually I'm going to do lavender and lace, Celtic ladies, as like a collage, and I'm hoping that I can get the collage charting done this year and start each quadrant of that next year. That'll be one big piece, not big, one piece. But maybe I'll start each quadrant in the different seasons next year. And I don't know, or I could start these next year. So we'll see. The other thing, I had a impromptu new start, because last week on the 19th, there were a lot of people starting cross stitches that represented other skin tones other than Caucasian, because that's something that is overly represented, I suppose, in cross stitch, which maybe there's also an overrepresentation of Caucasian designers, which is probably why, because if you're a designer, a lot of times you just naturally chart what's, you know, familiar to you, and you don't think about it necessarily, which is important to do sometimes, to think about it, because you're not the only person in the world. There's a lot of other people out there. So I've thought about that with my temperature pieces to account for the Southern Hemisphere, because not everybody's in the Northern Hemisphere. And I have some pieces in my shop, I'll put some pictures up here, that I considered starting for that SAL, Representation Matters SAL, and I think there's another one, Diversity and Inclusion SAL. I have a Jesus Loves the Little Children pattern that's got a bunch of little kids with all different skin tones, and I pulled the little kids from some nursery prayer patterns that I did, which are available, all of these are available in my shop, where you can choose what the little kid looks like, because not everybody looks the same, and sometimes it's hard to find new colors for skin tones and hair colors and stuff. So I made a variety of hair colors for the fair-skinned kids, because they tend to have the most variety in hair color. But then I did have an olive skin tone, a medium skin tone, and a brown skin tone, with, you know, to help include all of the people that could possibly be wanting that pattern. And then I decided to put all the little kids together, one of each type, alternating boys and girls, in that Jesus Loves the Little Children pattern. And I considered starting that and making a model, but that week was full of everything. Like I had the five projects going instead of 4 that week, and I had my new start with the summer cross. I was just thinking, I don't want to start a new big pattern. I couldn't wrap my head around it, so I decided not to and just moved on with life. But then Lindy Stitches, Stephanie, had a video up, and she's starting a free mystery SAL with this cute little girl, and it's small. I'm like, I can do that. That's cute. So she doesn't have a title of it yet, but it's being released on her newsletter. So releasing every Friday, starting this past Friday, and then this week and next week. So there's just 3 parts. And I believe I heard people on Instagram say, if you didn't get part 1 and you want to sign up, you can email her directly, and I'll try to find her email and put it here or in the description box. And if you want to email her and get part 1. Otherwise, you could just sign up for her email, and when you get part 2, part 1 will also be in there, I'm assuming. So this is I got part 1 finished. So here's my part 1. This cute little girl in a purple dress, and this is some more leftover 18 count Aida from my temperature kits in my shop that I'm also using for my Advent animals that I'll be starting this week. Eek! So anyways, I got this started and changed most of it to fancy floss from my stash, because that's right. Okay. I changed most of it to fancy floss from my stash just because I want to use it up. She charted it for DMC. And there's one color that she says you'll need a good amount of, and she recommends possibly trying to find an overdyed, and she's going to use Weeks Dye Works Kudzu. And I'm thinking that's probably going to be for some words, maybe on this side, but we don't know. You know, I think, my personal opinion, I think she's going to be riding an ostrich. You heard it here first, folks. So I don't have any clue what's happening over here. Some people have said maybe a seesaw, teeter-totter kind of thing. It looks like she's riding something. But I think since Stephanie likes to chart large birds, I thought maybe she's riding an ostrich. You never know. She said it's quirky and fun, so we'll see. But I kept her skin tone the same, the DMC that was called for, because I figured if a hand-dyed would make her streaky or blotchy or something, and you want a smooth complexion. And then I used Crescent Colors Caterpillar for her hair, because it looked like the variegation was a little bit stronger than the classic Colorworks. The purple is Special Orchid by Victorian Motto. Her leggings is Sunburst by Color and Cotton. And I used white for the shoes as well. And then the other, there's 2 colors that she recommended, that she said will be in the rest of it. And I'm going to use Black Coffee by Classic Colorworks and Oscar by Weeks Dye Works. This is the one that she's using, Kudzu? I don't even know how to say that. This is a similar color to the DMC that was called for. So I thought, let's use it. Various colors that I had in my stash that I didn't already have a plan for. So that's fun. So I'll work on that a little bit. Try to keep up with that on when it comes out. And she said parts 1 and 2 are pretty small, so it shouldn't be too hard to keep up with it. Took me a couple days to do it just because I had a lot of other things that I was trying to get done. The other thing that may come up this week as well is the Prim Stitch Club by the Fat Quarter Shop. I think it's supposed to start on July 1st, and I don't have any shipping notices or anything, and I don't know, they might be PDFs, so possibly on the 1st I'll get a PDF. But I have all my, the Aura Floss box and the Prim colored 25 count Lugana all ready to go. So I believe the cutting instructions, I'm going to do mine individually. The cutting instructions for that are going to be in the first part. So I'll have fabric prep to do on that one. I'll also have fabric prep on my new start for Full Coverage Fanatics. So I'll probably try to do that all at the same time if that comes on the 1st. So let's see. I think that's oh no, let's do other travel stitching. And then we'll go on to the big stuff I worked on. So I worked on Bloomtopia's border a little bit. Not as much as I probably should have, because when I was telling you last week, I normally work on that when I talk with my sister on Tuesday afternoons. And last week we played Minecraft together while we talked instead of stitch. I usually stitch. She usually just talks. You know, sometimes she does stitch a little bit and knits a little bit, but most of the time she is involved in other hobbies and things. So usually it's just me stitching while we talk, but I did get a little bit of work on it, but it is not done yet. So hopefully that won't take too much longer to finish up. I have 2 colors done. It'll probably overlap with the Prim Stitch Club, which I didn't want to have happen, but it's okay. Technically that part isn't released until the 15th. So I'm still not behind, but I was hoping to get a little bit more caught up. That's okay. All right, this is my temperature tree though. I did work on this yesterday, and I just worked on leaves because I already have the June branch done. So I'm gonna now need to work on the July branch at some point, at least part of it this week, to be able to add the last part of June and the beginning of July at the end of the week here. I usually like to work on this on Sundays, and that works out pretty nicely. So I noticed this leaf was the wrong color. It was matching this leaf, and it should have been matching this leaf. So I messed up on which line of the symbol key I was looking at for that one. So I fixed that and did all of these. So a little bit warmer down here. One day in the 90, one day was 90, a couple 89s. But overall, it's been very cool. This was back down to 78 again. So not our typical summer in Southern California. So it's been lovely to live through because we only had one little patch of hot here, but a little odd. So it makes for a colorful tree. I'll keep plugging away on that as I, once a week roughly. And I think that's all the random stitching that I did. So let's get to the bigger stuff, shall we? So I worked on 4 projects for Magical Stitches this week. First up was my son's Dragon Ride by Teresa Wensler. And I asked him what I should work on next because I didn't know. And since it's for him, he likes to kind of direct me to what I should work on next. And he said the wings. He wants to see more of the wings. So I had this mental picture of, I could get lots of fill-in and lots of different colors, and that's not really realistic, especially with lots of projects in a week. So I picked a color that was kind of up here, and I did it there, and then I realized it was in these, so I did it down here and ended up finishing. I may have stopped actually before I finished out the last 2 little yellow sections. because it's also in this part of his tail. So I figured I'll just color complete that and then move on to another color that's not yellow and maybe go back and forth between yellows and blues and purples and things. Because I was kind of getting a groove with this and really wanted to work on it more, I thought maybe I'll give it a whole week in September near his birthday. And I could also give my birthday start in September a whole week also, maybe. Garden Prelude by Mirabilia. That made me think, well, maybe I should give everybody a week in their birthday month to give them extra love, but June is practically over, and I could have done my husband's Simpsons piece a little bit longer this week, and I really don't have time to do more on it. I don't really want to get it out for one day. And July is when my other son's piece would be, and July is kind of full. So I thought, well, during the first 25 days in July, I'm doing my ornament, part of an ornament, and then full coverage Fanatics bingo. On each day, there's going to be 2 projects. So maybe during Joan Elliott July, at the last 6 days, I can also have Touchdown, my other son's piece, as kind of my bonus piece to get maybe one length of thread in a day before I work on my Joan Elliott that day. So that's a thought, to give that a little bit of love in the month of July. I'm also going to start my son's full coverage piece on his birthday for the bingo. So I think that'll be fun too. But anyways, I'm getting really long-winded here. Here is Dragon Ride. Now, next to where it was last time. I don't know how noticeable it will be at a distance, but here it is a little closer. I did a few extra stitches in here, and then I filled in a lot of these pinions. They're not completely filled in there. There's one more color in that yellow area, and then these 2 don't have that medium shade in there yet. And that shade will also be along here in the tail. There was a little bit of it over here already that I did, and in here probably. So this one's a nice one to work on. This is 28 count MCG Textiles light blue, mostly 2/2. The man in the middle is 1/1. And my temperature tree is 1/1 on 28 count. Light blue Artiste Zweigart brand even weave from Hobby Lobby. This I believe was also at Hobby Lobby, but they switched the brand they carry. They don't carry MCG Textiles because I believe MCG Textiles went out of business. So now they carry Zweigart fabric under their label Artiste. So I also worked on Mayflower Rose Ornament, which is coming along really nicely, and I stitched on this a lot longer than I was supposed to. I'm doing a fancy floss conversion with my own stash, and I thought about maybe working on a variety of colors on this one, but once I got started on the sky, I just wanted to finish the sky, and I think I might color complete the rest of the rest of the design. So here it is now. And this is another one that has 1/1 in the middle and then 2/2 around the outside. And some of the flowers will have specialty stitches, and I'll do those at the end to make sure that the specialty stitches are laying on top of the cross stitches, kind of like you do backstitch last. So next I believe I'll do water, because all of these leaves and flowers are kind of on top of the sky and the water. So I'll do the water next, and then probably the leaves, and then the red flowers, and then the specialty stitched white flowers. I'll probably do the clouds too, actually. Clouds and water will probably be the next thing I do when I pull this out again. So this is fun. This is also 28 count, like a homemade tea-dyed even weave that I was given. Kind of gives it a crusty look since it's for representing an old thing. So this is fun. This blue is Capri by Color and Cotton, I believe. Yeah, and it's really pretty. There's some streaks in there where it changes color, and I thought it turned out really nice. It kind of gives it a like stratus clouds in the background. So that's nice. Oh yeah, and then my 2 full coverage pieces. So I worked on Knitting Woman, which is one I'm doing for my mom. So maybe I'll give her a week in November. That would be fun. If I can swing it, that would be nice to give them a extra time in their birth month. So maybe I'll try that. So here's this one. It's a golden kite. Doing this in half stitches. I've been behind in answering questions online, and I'm sorry. It's hard to get in there and make the time to do it, but I have had a couple questions recently of why am I doing like a half stitch instead of a full cross. Part of it is just an experiment, which this is an example of that. And part of it is because it is a little bit faster. Part of it is also size. So a lot of my early full coverages were on 18 count, or are on 18 count because I haven't finished very many of them. And that's kind of as small as I like to go and still have 2 strands of thread with a full cross. I think you can do 20 count, but it tends to get bulky in the like confetti bits when there's lots of color changes. So I like 18 count for 2 strands of full crosses. A lot of my full coverage pieces are golden kites, which have blends. So I have to do 2 strands because there's a lot of the colors. Usually more than half of the symbols are blends. So you need one strand of 2 different colors in your needle at the same time. And so I thought, well, if I have a chart that I want to stitch with blends, and it's going to be these dimensions, why don't I try to shrink it down to get a smaller count of fabric? But the only way to get a smaller count of fabric and 2 strands is to do a half stitch. And I saw some people doing it on the Golden Kite forums. On the main one I saw was the 24 count Congress cloth, which I actually have. I'm going to do one of these here at the beginning of July. It's a very stiff canvas that people use for counted canvas a lot. This is a nice one for half stitch because it doesn't warp as much as fabric does. But then, so the first one I tried half stitch was this one. And this is a 22 count. And I can do 2 strands. It's not quite dense enough for me because you can still see the fabric behind it. But it works and it is faster, especially in the background. When you don't have to do both legs of the stitch, you can finish, fill it in a lot faster. In the confetti bits, it's not as fast because you still have a lot of counting to do. But in the chunk areas where there's chunks of color, it goes a lot faster, doing just a half stitch. So that's why I do it. It's for speed and for size. I have come to enjoy 28 count 2-stranded half stitches the best, but I do have some 25, and my 24 count Congress cloth is actually really nice also. So I like all of those. This one I don't love as much, but I do love the picture and I'm going to continue with it. Even though it's not my favorite count, it still works. And so on this one, this time, I finished out her face. So her face is all done and neck. I'm so excited. It looks really good because before she had a lot of holes. And when I picked a color, I would work it down into the rest of these. This is the girl's arms coming down here, and then she has hands knitting. Oh, from here you can already see like her finger lines where she's holding her knitting needles. So some of the colors came down even down to here. And one of them, I counted with counting pins to get all the way down. Some people are like, how do you count that far without grading? If I go really far, I definitely like to quadruple check. And even lately I've been counting where I count 10, put a pin, count 10, put a pin, count 10, put a pin, make sure I'm for reals. And then even once I've stitched them, I'll count again, stitch by stitch, all the way back up. And usually in both directions, although there's nothing to the side to double check this one, but this is the bottom of the pattern, like right here. There's like 12 stitches to the bottom. So that's pretty cool. And then there was a few, like some grays in here that I did also. And she had a couple stitches right here that was the next highest symbol, and it was more of the background. So I'm like, well, I need to just be done anyways and get a few more stitches. So I did those two and then filled in a few more rows over here, which made me get my at least 500 half stitch goal a little bit faster at the end there. So this is coming along nicely. I'm happy her face, both of their faces are done now. So there's a lot of color changes right in here. So picking things from the top down, you end up picking one, do 1 or 2 stitches up here, and then the rest of it is down here. So it's kind of why I liked parking in the first place, because you can see these areas fill in a little bit faster. But I do like finishing my thread and then moving on, because it just, you do end up working a little bit faster, even though the sections don't get completed faster. So I guess it's a trade-off. I still have more of this dark on my thread, so I'll do that at the beginning of whenever I work on this next, which will be, I think, the last on the 21st. I already plugged this one in. Somebody asked me to see the backs of my full coverage pieces, so I'll try to show you all the backs as well. So this is the back of this one, and I do an actual half stitch, not a continental, because in my experience a continental warps your fabric even more. So a lot of these you'll see the up and down stitches, just like it's the first leg of a cross stitch. So this is my back, and I do carry around a little bit, but I always try to cover up my carried threads, and if I can, I'll go bury them under stitches as I'm carrying so that I don't mess up the tension on the front of the fabric. So there's that one. So that'll come out again for full coverage bags, bingo, at the end of, on the 21st, I guess, because I already plugged that one in. And then Princess of the Sea is the other one I worked on today. And I'll work on this the last part of the bingo too. I think I plugged this one in for the 22nd and 23rd at the end of the week, at the end of the full coverage bingo. So here's this one, and I had some comments on this one too. This is Princess of the Sea Mini by Heaven and Earth Designs. When I print these out, I use toner save mode on my printer because it's just for me, so I don't need to waste a lot of ink for mine. They are a lot paler on the paper than they are in real life. And this is where I am now compared to my other this progress compared to last week. And you will see that she looks a lot more red than she does in the picture. But she's got multiple shades in her, and they blend well with each other. So I think it will look fine once everything's put in, because all of these shades are brighter and richer than they are in the picture too. So once it's all said and done, it's gonna like even out, I'm pretty sure. So I'm not worried about it. So let's see. Because see, all of these shades up here are a lot richer in the thread as well. So I think once it's all done, she won't look excessively red. I think she'll look just fine. So I did, I think I had some thread on my needle that was this like medium peachy color right here. So I did some of that, and there was a little gap in here. So I grabbed another short string and filled in that gap. And then I decided to go ahead and work on the sky because I wanted to try to get a lot of stitches in a short amount of time. Only the little patch right here that I started with was super confetti heavy. There was like one stitch, and then it was everywhere else. So like there was a color that came around and did some around here, this lighter color. And there was these purpley shades. One of them came over here, and then this big chunk of blue I did at the end as well. So this is also a half stitch on 28 count. I think this is my Dove Gray Monaco that I'll be doing another piece on, and my new start will be on this. I got a yard at least, a full yard, maybe 2, from Rita Reen's Cross Stitch on Facebook. Great prices, and a lot of, mostly Ada and a little bit of 28 count Monaco. So that's where she's at, and she'll get 2 more days in July. So I'm enjoying her. She's coming along nicely. I didn't fill in her face like I said I might, There's still those little holes in her face, but I was kind of running out of time because I spent too much time on the sky of the Mayflower rose ornament. I think I got like over 400 stitches, and I only needed 250. But I really wanted to finish the sky. So then I figured, well, I'll work on sky on her too, because then I'll get my stitches a little bit faster. So I think that's everything I worked on this week, and I really enjoyed that. It's nice to go back to 4 projects. It feels like I have more flexibility, and I was able to start that cute little Lindy Stitches Sal. And so this week, there's only 2 days left in June, today and tomorrow, and then July starts, and all my plans start, because my July is booked solid. So just making sure I still have time left to chit chat here. So I decided, I had forgotten until I was filming last week that I still had one more piece I had earmarked for Around the World challenge in Full Coverage Fanatics. They have some non-counting challenges with themes for various countries. So the country for June is Germany, and I had already done my stitching shelf, which I chose for books, because I guess Germany has a large publishing history, or continues to be a large publishing company for books. And so when I worked on my stitching shelf for the Midsummer Nights Sal, I dovetailed that with the monthly theme for Germany. But then I've been picking 2 full coverage pieces every month for these monthly Around the World Sals. My other one is Empress Eugenie, which I hadn't worked on yet. Well, I thought, oh, I need to do that. So since there's only 2 days left, Enchanted Stitching is not starting a new challenge yet until July starts. And even then it might be a different kind of July challenge, because there's only a partial week. So for these today and tomorrow, there's no challenges. So I figure, well, I'll just work on Empress Eugenie today and tomorrow for the Around the World Sal. And because it's going right into Full Coverage Fanatics Bingo, and that's a full coverage piece, I figured I'll go ahead and work on that on the 1st also. So then I'll just do 3 days in a row on Empress Eugenie. So this is what this one looks like. And I realized as I was gathering these that all 4 I'm going to work on this week are golden kites. So that's kind of fun. So this is Empress Eugenie, and I had started this on some 28 count Lugana, and it was too flimsy for half stitches. It seemed like it was warping and slipping and not happy. I love Monaco for half stitching. It's a nice sturdy fabric. So I ended up restarting this probably last year at some point, but I only had a few stitches in, and I had not yet put it in Pattern Keeper. So I know it was probably last year that I restarted it. Because I got Pattern Keeper for Christmas. So anyways, I am taking out the top 2 rows of pages. This is an enormous design. It's originally, I don't even know the original because I already cropped it, but my cropped version is 850 by 494. I am cutting out the top 2 pages of sky and trees, and then the leftmost, is that left or right? That's right. The rightmost column over here that's just dark, and I'll still get her hat and everything. It's just cutting off like right there. I put this into Pattern Keeper with my cropped information, and I am cutting off a quarter of the original design by doing that. I'm like, that's a lot. That's a lot of stitching that I don't have to do. So I'm super excited. I have a teensy little restart on this, so it will be nice to give this a nice solid 3 days to try to get a proper start going. Looks like I still have this first color on my needle, so I'll be able to just get going here. So this is also Dove Gray Monaco, and it's still really long and large. But here is my itty bitty little start. And this is also half stitches because it is so big. Like seriously, this is large. And this is a half stitch over 1 on 28 count. So if I were doing this on 18, it would probably cover my entire queen size bed. So that's my start. I will hope to have a lot more progress after 3 days. So that'll be fun to give that a nice chunk and get a proper start on that. And I am doing this for Germany because I believe the artist that painted the picture was a German artist. Golden Kite does not put the artists' names on the covers of their patterns. So I don't actually have it here. I can't remember his name. But the artist is a German artist. And I'm also going to use it for the full coverage prompt for trees because of all the trees in the background. And granted, I'm cropping most of them, but you can still see some of them in the background. And I will be actually stitching up here in the trees. So I thought that was appropriate. So I'll be working on this for bingo for the trees on the 1st. The next one for bingo on the 2nd is for my son. I'm going to start his on his birthday. Visit Endor by Country Magic Stitch on Etsy. This one's not in Pattern Keeper, but it's only 4 pages and there's a lot of blocks of color, so it should be pretty easy to do on paper. And I'm going to stitch this also on some more 28 count Monaco in a half stitch. I sized out the, this is all solid colors too, so I could do it even smaller, like a 1 strand on 40 count. I'm probably going to do my son's little bear piece on 40 count with a 1 strand half stitch. But my other son wanted it just a little bigger. So I measured it and it's going to be like 4.5 by 6.5 or something. It's going to be about this big. And I offered to do it also on 18 count. It would be almost the size of a sheet of paper. And he was like, well, whichever one would get it done faster. I can still see the details if it's small. So if it goes faster to do it on the smaller count, then let's do that, which it would, because if I'm doing a half stitch, and it's mostly solid stitching, solid blocks of color, it'll go really fast in a half stitch. So I said, that would be faster. So he said, sure, let's do it. Because it will be bigger than the picture. So a 28 count half stitch over 1, it'll be like this big total. So it'll still be small, but he's like, I can see all the details on it this size. So if it's a little bigger than that, I'm happy. So this is my little buddy, this one right here. He's gonna be a teenager. How did I get that old? Oh my goodness. So anyways, that's my start, and that's gonna be for the prompt, a project with less than 50 colors, because I didn't have one already. So that one only has 11 colors, so I think that counts. The next one I'm gonna do is End of the Ball, which is the one that's on my Congress cloth. I have 2 on Congress cloth. This is one of them, and I worked on this a little bit earlier this week, or earlier this year, so you've seen it somewhat recently. And I actually had worked down the curtain and came up to where I could actually see where her head was gonna be. So I should be a good girl and work more in the background, I know, but I may do more on her too, just like I have on Princess of the Sea. So I can go back and forth between the people and the background. That could be fun. So this one I'm working on for the bingo prompt, a designer or a design name beginning with a vowel. So End of the Ball starts with E. So here's my start on that one, and it's Congress cloth is pretty see-through. The holes are nice and big. So that's, I don't want the 5-star logo in the back on my before picture. So here's my start on this one. And this is the lady's hair, I'm pretty sure is right there. That was like a highlight on her hair. So I do have a good chunk of this corner done now, and I'm picking colors along the top and just filling them in wherever they go without, if I don't have to count too far. Guess I didn't show you the back of Princess of the Sea, but here's the back of this one. So I have some carrying that I'm doing, and this is also a 2-stranded half stitch. And so I'm excited to work on that for another day. go ahead and do this, shall we? Here's the back of Princess of the Sea. So little bits of carrying, and then the bigger blocks, you know, it's just smooth and even. But so that's that. I don't worry about my backs too much, but people want to see, that's fine. So the next day on the 3rd, oh, the 3rd is end of the ball. The 4th, I figured I could do waterfall in Yosemite because it's a national park, and the 4th is the Independence Day of America. So I thought that went well together. It's my loose, you know, patriotic, the closest thing I could connect in my full coverage to be patriotic. So this is waterfall in Yosemite, the mini version. And I worked on this not that long ago, so still have a thread on my needle, so I'll be working in the sky some more. It's stuck in here. There we go. And here's where I'm at on that. Maybe I'll do, no, yeah, I'll just do back here for my before and after. And I show you, I got these top 2 or top 1.5 rows done last time I worked on this, so I'll keep plugging away at that sky on the 4th of July. So that's where that is now. I don't know how to do a, I could maybe even just do a side-by-side of the sky area, but we'll see. We'll see where I go. Sometimes I ended up over here too to finish out strings. So we'll see. I think I got enough to work with. I usually just do screenshots for my before pictures. So here's the back. My thread still on the needle, and little bits of carrying, but I like to cover it all over so it's not hanging out, and there's, you know, it's denser and crazier over in the confetti areas. But yeah, stuff gets stitched over so it's nice, and because I stitch in hand, I don't want to leave a lot of loose things back there, because they'll get caught on my hands or on my needle, or make the tension funny. So I always make sure those are secured. And my last one I'll work on Sunday, assuming I can come back and film on Monday, Lord willing, is grapes. So that's another golden kite. And got a good amount done on this one. I think I'm close to the 50% mark, actually. So I'm in a heavy confetti area though, so it can be a little daunting. I'm hoping I can make some decent progress on this on Sunday. Still have some park threads, a lot of parked threads. And the last couple times I pulled this out, I was working on just finishing out my parked threads so I can move forward. It'll take me a long time to get these all worked in, but that'll be my goal. I'm not sure where I'll want to go. Sometimes I was working down here. Sometimes I decided to work in some of these, like these over here that are kind of off on their own. So I don't know. So I have a variety of places that I could work, but all of this along here is like fill in with the park threads that I was trying to use up. So this is on 18 count, oatmeal, Fiddler's Ada. And this is a small version of this pattern. They have a larger one. But again, because I was doing it on 18 count, I didn't want it huge. And the detail is still really good, even with the mini version. So I think it looks amazing. With all the, you know, you can see the leaf and the vines and even the cracks in the plaster and the wood details. The sky looks like a real, you know, background. The shine on the grapes, another little stick. Pretty cool. I do love this one. So let's see what we can do in one day, shall we? So these are full crosses, 2 strands. Oh, yep. Gotta show my back. So it looks crazier in the areas that are not stitched yet, but the areas that are stitched, it ends up looking a little bit nicer just because everything gets covered over. So that's that. And so those are all my full coverage pieces that'll be kind of my main evening stitching each day. but I will still be working on my customer stitching in the morning or afternoon, and the like Bloomtopia or the Prim Stitch Club kind of thing, and the Lindy Stitches Cell, all of that will still, you know, I'll find time for bits of that here and there. And then I will also do a little bit on a new start of an Advent animal. I'm having trouble putting this away. Sorry. Don't want to lose my needle. It needs to be good. Okay. I'm going to start my Advent animals, one each day for the first 25 days in July. So I'm stitching these on 18 count Aida in light blue, and I've started to fill out my cards of one long strand of floss for all the DMC. There's 2 cards of this, and I've only got, you know, 3/4 of one card done. So I need to get that finished before, and you know what? I don't need to get it done before I start. Worst case, as I get a color, I'll just pull the thread then and put it on the thing. Like, I wanted to be all prepared ahead of time, but I really don't need to. I could. So I've got all my papers, or all my pieces ready to go. Let me show you which ones I'll be doing for the first 5 days. Here's number 5. And I'm not planning to finish these. I know Dina, half stitch, cross stitch, she can finish one of these in 1 or 2 days, but that's all she works on when she finishes them that quickly. And I'm just going to give it a little bit of time. So I'm not sure yet what that's going to look like. If it's going to be one strand, one color, one chunk of half hour, I don't really know. So we'll kind of wait and see how my life plays out. If I'll get something consistent with each one and say I'll do one length of thread on this one color on this one. We'll see. I'll let you know how it goes. So the first one is Katie Kitty for day 1. I'm not going to do the border. So that'll be, I'll just go straight to the animal. I'll probably start in the middle just to make sure they're centered. And then I have Peter Polar Bear for number 2. Mary Mouse for number 3. These are also washed out with my printer. So Duncan Dog, number 4. And Hattie Hedgehog is number 5. So those are so cute. So I'll have a few probably tiny little starts to show you later. But my plan is once these are started, assuming our life starts to open up a little bit eventually, I can use them as travel stitching to take the whole set with me and work on them here and there, because they're cute and small and they all have the same colors, you know, so it's easy to just take them along places and work on them. So they would make a good travel piece, and potentially could also work for various prompts that need animals or coffee or, you know, random things. So I'll probably put that on my whip list as just one whip, not 25, because I'll keep them all together like that. So that's my plan, and I think that's plenty, don't you think? So the Full Coverage Fanatics Around the World Challenge is India for the month of July. So the 2 that I picked for India go along with yellow, which I think maybe because of their flag. I honestly figured all this out last year, so I don't even remember anymore, but I think they have yellow in their flag. So La Soiree and the Love Letter both have significant chunks of yellow in them. So when those come around for the bingo, I'll just take my before and after pics for bingo and use them for the India challenge also. So that's kind of my plan for that. So, should be fun. If you're doing Christmas in July or full coverage bingo or anything like that, let me know, and it'll be fun to see what everybody's working on. And in the meantime, have a fun week, be kind to those around you, and happy stitching. Bye.